Hello, I'm James Smith. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bugsnag. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to have a successful launch. But overall, really what we're going to be talking about here are strategies for releasing in a timely manner with minimal bugs. So who am I? I'm James Smith. As I said, I've been running a company called Bugsnag for about 7 years. I'll talk a lot more about Bugsnag later. Before Bugsnag, I've been building software for a long time, about 15 years. I'm a math and computer science graduate. I started my career working in embedded software. Then I worked in startups, worked on mobile applications when mobile applications weren't really even a thing. But also in my spare time, and really what got me into programming in the first place was my love for gaming and building games. I also, in my career, worked at the gaming company Hayzap. I was the first employee and CTO at that company and built that into one of the world's largest gaming social networks back when that was a mobile gaming was an early thing. That allowed me to kind of reconnect with my love of gaming, also to cut my teeth in the world of mobile development, building mobile SDKs, and inspired me to work on the company that I'm working on right now. Bugsnag is a company that I founded with my co-founder Simon about 7 years ago, and we've built what we call an application stability management platform. Really what that means is we've built a piece of software where you can install an SDK in your application, whether that be a web app, a mobile app, a desktop app, a browser-based application, or more increasingly, a game. And that SDK will detect crashes and bugs behind the scenes. It will wake up at the point in time we detect a crash and take a diagnostic snapshot. And that diagnostic snapshot will contain data about what the bug was, what line of code it happened on, what was happening in your application at the point in time the crash happened, and which user is affected by that crash. We really focus on helping you figure out which bugs matter, because in gaming and most client-side applications, there's a signal-to-noise problem. There's a ton of errors, but quite often a very small development team. I'm kind of excited about the fact that these days I get to work with large gaming properties and large gaming companies, given my love of gaming. And here's some of the games that you may have heard of, you may have on your phone right now, that we are the mobile stability experts on. We are installed in these games. And outside of gaming, we also have a pretty large customer base as well. We're used across tiny little apps for hobbyists all the way up to Fortune 100 companies across the board, trying to solve and address the same problem. So I want to start off by kind of looking at games that are worldwide, well-renowned and loved by all. What did they have in common? What about these games that stood the test of time? Well, I think you're starting to see a pattern here. Again, I've got to drop in the Nintendo games. I am a Nintendo fanboy. I was waiting a long time for the forever delayed Breath of the Wild, and when it came out, it was an absolute masterpiece, and I think the critics agree. I think the one on the right here is the new Breath of the Wild. We'll see when Cyberpunk releases, if it ever releases, but when it releases, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. So what these had in common is a delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. I love this quote so much. It really talks about and speaks to how Nintendo and other studios like Rockstar, for example, see game development as a craft. And I hope most of you who are watching this talk feel the same way as well. One of the problems, I think, with a statement like this is not every studio is a Nintendo or a Rockstar and has infinite resources and has the kind of internal pressures only and not so many external pressures. So what we're going to do today is try and address that dichotomy, that problem there. If you're a game studio, you want to launch a game and you want to have a big bang. You want to do that marketing launch. You want to hit the press. You want people to be excited about it. But getting it out there, sometimes you have to call it. You have to say it's ready, or maybe you've got external pressures from your marketing team or from your publisher or from some external force, your investors maybe, to get something launched. So there's a lot of pressure. But if you launch too quickly, it can be a huge risk. If you rush your code and don't do adequate testing and cut corners, it can introduce more bugs into the game quite simply. A game that has a disastrous launch can meaningfully hurt the brand's reputation, especially if you're an indie studio. Sometimes you only get one bite at the apple, and even for large studios, if you are a game developer that is working with some external IP, for example, if you're working with the Star Wars IP, Disney's probably going to take a look at a different contract if they're not confident that you're going to protect their brand, their Star Wars IP, for example, with a low quality launch. And also in this industry, it's something I have a love-hate relationship with. The audience is incredibly vocal. You're going to have, if people love the game, they're going to tell the world about it. But on the flip side, if people don't love the game, they're going to tell the world about it. And also, I think that the game press are very unforgiving as well. They're looking to find that next failure. But as I said earlier, we're not all Nintendo, we're not all Rockstar, we're not all CD Projekt Red. We don't have the means to delay the launch of new games by years, and so we need to figure out how to get these games live in a sensible way without causing all of these disastrous knock-on effects. So, when's the right time to launch a game? Either we develop and launch too quickly and launch with a bunch of problems, or we delay this launch and miss an opportunity for additional eyes on the product or great press or whatever it is, or get in trouble with your publisher or get in trouble with someone who's pressuring you to get the game live. So what we're going to talk about a little bit today is what are the strategies for timely releases while minimizing bugs. So the idea here is to launch games quickly that people will love. Now, this is quite a long topic. This is not something we can completely cover in a 30-minute session. And candidly, I'm not an expert in points 1 and 2. I'm an expert in software stability. I'm an expert in... I work with gaming companies and software companies around the world that are trying to figure out how to balance this launching quickly with having high stability. But we should talk about points 1 and 2 a little bit here because I think it sets the scene really, really well. So, closed playtest. I mean, this one is so obvious. I really hope everyone's doing this. You don't just hit the launch button when you launch your game. You need to have people play it. You need to have people try it out. And whether that is as an indie studio, whether that is friends and family, or that's people on a gaming forum that you frequent, or in a large studio, maybe that's your testing team that you have internally. But you have to do closed playtests. Closed playtests solve the bug issue, but also, is this game fun? Is anyone going to play this game? Is it hitting the criteria that we set out to hit when we designed this game to begin with? So that one I think is a no-brainer, but I have to keep it in there. The second one is early access and private betas. Now, I'm surprised at how many studios don't use this angle. So early access, I think, is becoming more and more popular. A really good example of this is Steam's early access program. There are a bunch of games that launched on early access that are now huge billion-dollar games. PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, I think, launched on early access on Steam. I played it when it was in early access, and it was a bit buggy, but I had a ton of fun playing it in early access. The reason that early access is so powerful is it sets expectations. If you go out to your the gamers who are going to start playing your early version and say, hey, this isn't ready yet, but I know you want to play it, so can you give us a bunch of feedback and tell us, is it fun, and is it stable, and is it a good game? I love it because you get that feedback that this community loves to give, but you set expectations that it's not ready yet. So it's kind of seen as a soft launch. You can come and do that big bang marketing launch when you pull the trigger and call it version 1.0. Or what a lot of games are doing these days is they'll do a pre-season or early access and then launch season 1 in games that have season-based content. Private betas, I think, are a little bit more straightforward as well. Anyone can run these. You don't need to be using the Steam platform or another early access platform. Private betas, you just need to build a community. Get a community management team. Get a forum set up around your game. get people who are interested to try new games, and give them early builds. It's the same idea. You're going to be giving them expectation that this game is not ready yet, but we really want your feedback. People love to feel special. People love to feel like they're getting a sneak peek into something exclusive. And if you build a strong community as well, they'll also be your great advocates for when you hit that launch button for V1.0. They're going to go out and tell the world, I've been playing this game for 6 months. Aren't I cool because I got early access? But also sing the praises of the game if you've got it right. Points 3 and 4 here is, I think, the where I spend the most time and where I think I can share the most insight. We're going to talk a little bit about what I call ongoing stability management. And then we're going to talk about A/B testing and phased rollouts. And phased rollouts and A/B testing mostly talks about content add-ons or additional content that you're adding to the game after the launch. So, what is stability? I've said the word stability a lot. Well, stability is a key metric that you can use through every part of the development process. It is most powerful when your software is in the hands of end users or customers or gamers, whether that be your private beta group or even your internal play testers. Once the game is given in the hands of people who are actually using it for real and it's not connected to a debugger, stability management is a key metric to look at. I'll show you the definition of stability in a minute, but first I also want to talk about this concept of prioritization. I always say the client side is the Wild West. There are so many variables to deal with in client-side software development, and gaming is a good example of that. You have to deal with people who have out-of-sync versions or old versions of your software. You have to deal with people who have old versions of the PS4 firmware and haven't updated to the latest version. There are so many it might be that people have got third-party controllers. There's all sorts of things that are the Wild West compared to the relatively tame world of back-end development where you are in full control of your development and runtime environments. It also means that your software is running on lots of external devices. Like I said, with back-end development, you're running on probably a relatively small number of servers or VMs or instances. But when you deploy a client-side application, it's getting deployed to probably tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of devices, games consoles or mobile phones. So you get a lot of bug reports coming back in. So how do you manage all those bug reports? Well, you need to figure out which bugs matter. And we say this, we have it on a t-shirt. If we were in a real life conference right now, you'd see me wearing my Not All Bugs Are Worth Fixing t-shirt. But yeah, bugs that happen maybe in critical parts of your game or flows, like buying an in-game transaction or going through the initial tutorial. They're probably more important. You want to look at the ones that are most prevalent or happening in key flows. You probably also want to segment your bugs by who the most important people playing your game are. Now, this is potentially controversial. We want to treat everyone equally. We want everyone to have a fantastic experience. That's true. But if you have to strictly prioritize which ones should you work on first, probably it's going to be the ones that are helping you support the development of this game, i.e. the ones that are spending money. So maybe you want to have a look at the super fans from your community, the people who are going to really be advocates, and say, let's make sure we fix the bugs that they're seeing first. Or maybe you want to fix the bugs that are directly impacting revenue during an in-game transaction, for example. Another thing that I think is interesting in gaming, which is very important to segment, is bugs that happen internally versus externally. What I mean by that is, especially in mobile, but more increasingly in console and PC as well, you're going to not just build your game in a single engine, you're probably going to be including external SDKs. In the land of mobile, a lot of games include ad provider and ad platform SDKs. Now, this may be rude to the ad networks out there, but there are plenty of really shoddy ad network SDKs. Ad networks are expert in generating revenue and connecting publishers with developers. They're not always experts in building crash-free stable SDKs. That's okay. We forgive you, ad networks and ad platforms. But what that means is if you're a mobile developer, quite often you'll see these bugs and crashes in your application that are absolutely nothing to do with you. You've spent your whole development process doing all the right things. You've been writing static analysis, you've been writing test suites and integration and unit tests. Then you've been using a stability management tool like Bugsnag to look at production applications and see how they're performing in the wild. wild. But oh dear, your ad provider has launched a bad version of their SDK that crashes when there's no internet connection or something like that. This is a big deal in gaming, especially on mobile, and you need to be able to segment that. So let's dive into one of those examples a little bit more before I talk about measuring stability as some math. And let's talk about one of Bugsnag's customers, WB Games. So WB Games have a bunch of mobile games and beloved brands, beloved IP. You've probably played some of them. A lot of these games are in-game transaction games, microtransaction games. So the revenue is driven by buying cosmetics or content from in-game transactions. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. WB Games have people who spend a lot of money on in-game transactions, and this is true for a lot of Bugsnag customers as well. So I've jokingly put here, who's spending hundreds of $1,000s a year plus on mobile games? Well, it could be celebrities, it could be Saudi princes. That's definitely Kim Kardashian playing a Game of Thrones game on her phone right now. So what about this stability number I've been talking about? It's easy for me to say measure stability, track stability, but let's get a little bit more tangible. What does that mean? Well, a lot of you have probably heard of the concept of error rates. Error rates is, what percentage of user sessions crashed or some variant of that. Well, in Bugsnagland, we invert that. We baseline off of 100% rather than off of 0%. So rather than saying number of crash sessions divided by total crash sessions, we say 1 minus that number. Now, the reason we do that isn't just to make it look pretty. We do that because that's a number and a baseline that I think a lot of software development teams, and especially site reliability teams, are familiar with. If you've ever heard of the concept of 5 nines of uptime or 5 nines of availability, that's something that's very, very common in the site reliability space. You want to make sure that your website or backend or API is available and up 99.999% of the time, or whatever metric that you choose. So what we've done in Bugsnag is we've taken the concept of stability and said, let's show you what percentage of your user sessions were crash free, so we can baseline off of 100% as well. So it's very familiar. I wish that stability was 5 nines or 6 nines, and there are some of our customers that are at 5 nines or 6 nines, but realistically, games tend to crash a lot more than that, especially mobile games. These numbers that I've shown on the screen here are the 90% ones, a little bit low, but they're relatively representative of a mid-tier performing mobile application. So once you've got this stability score, what can you do with it? Well, there's a couple of really cool things that I'm showing on the screen here. One of them is you can track what the stability of your application is over time. And so I said earlier a couple of strategies were to do phased rollouts and A/B tests and things like that. Well, in this case, what you can do is you can hotfix and patch. So when you roll out a new version, you can say, is this version more stable than the previous version? What's the stability score? Is it on target? The chart at the bottom left there, we're showing a couple of things. We're showing adoption and stability. We're showing stability over time, which is the top chart, across various releases. And then we're showing adoption over time across various releases. This is obviously for mobile games where the Play Store and the App Store tend to nudge you a little bit more to upgrade your application. So you see that very familiar curve of adoption at the bottom there. So I've kind of skipped over something here. I've skipped over this concept of hotfixing and releases. Well, when I started my career, when I got my first games console, you could not hotfix a game. When you put in your, I'm going to age myself here, but when you put in your gold NES cartridge, NES cartridge of Legend of Zelda, that was it. That's the game that Nintendo shipped. And nothing else was going to happen to it. It had to be good. It had to be ready to go. And even not that long ago, consumers would expect to walk into GameStop, pick up a game, a CD, and that would be it. Now, for anyone who's played the recent Call of Duty games, you know that that's not the reality in the world that we live in anymore. Devices are more often than not connected to the internet, and console developers and mobile developers are really using this to their advantage, and I'm sure most of you are as well. Um, I was going to put a screenshot in here of a consumer looking at the disk space usage when confronted with a Call of Duty upgrade. I'm sure everyone's done the same thing. But the point is that once your game is launched, that's not the end of development. And in fact, you've got games now like GTA Online or World of Warcraft as a great example that have been around for a long time. GTA 5 keeps getting launched for all these new platforms because Rockstar are making a ton of money, but also the game wasn't done when they launched it. They are continually launching new content over time. So tracking releases is a great way to see, oh, okay, we've rolled out new content, we've rolled out new code. Is it stable? So another cool thing about stability and tracking stability in your released applications is you can set targets and goals. Now, what we're looking at here is the concept of target stability and critical stability, as we call it in Bugsnag. But in reality, again, this is something we've cribbed from the world of site reliability engineering, the concept of an SLA and an SLO. SLA is a service level agreement. That is the written in blood contract that you have that says this is how stable we absolutely have to be, because otherwise everything's on fire and we're in big trouble. The target stability, or SLO, is a site service level objective. Now that's a little bit more of an aspirational goal, or maybe you want to be hovering around that line. If you drop below that line, it's probably not the end of the world. That's what you're shooting for. And again, measuring this in your production releases is great, because over time, it's not just going to be a new release that causes issues. It might be, for example, one of your API servers that's pulling save game data out from the cloud is down, and your clients don't handle that in a really good way. And if your clients aren't handling a bad API response, suddenly you're going to see this chart tank, and that's nothing to do with launching new code. The other thing you can do with stability is compare your suite of applications. Now, if you're an indie studio and you're doing your first game, this is probably not that important to you. But if you're starting to launch more and more games, if you're a studio that has, like Scopely, for example, that has a ton of AAA mobile games out there, if you are the VP of mobile, VP of engineering, CTO, you want to know which of your apps need attention. You want to have a look at these games and say, this one over here looks like it's in bad shape, in rough shape. Let's take a look. So at a glance in Bugsnag, you can look at these stability targets and say, okay, we've got 2 green ones, the rest are yellow. I don't see any red ones in there. Fantastic. We don't need to wake up the development team at 4 a.m. in the morning. So something's new. I already mentioned this already. Something new has happened recently. You can now update games after the fact. You don't have to wait for Super Mario Bros. 2. You can now have GTA 5 forever. Just kidding, Rockstar. Please release GTA 6. So you can keep your users engaged and generate revenue by releasing new content over and over again. DLC is one way to do this, but actually I think the model that I'm most excited about is ongoing content updates, or seasons. From Animal Crossing, where it's very seasonal, through to Fortnite or Apex Legends. Seasons are this recurring event that keeps a game fresh for a really long time, but in order to do that, you need to update the content. So, great example of this. And I'm not a Fortnite player, but I did watch the Travis Scott concert event because it just blew my mind. There's no way that this was code that was already in the game, right? Epic went out there and said, right, let's work with Travis Scott, let's program in all of these animations, let's build these models, let's put all the game event data into the game. That was patched into the game ahead of time, almost certainly. And then when they hit that go button, that was not the first time that code ran. They tested that. They had probably used a phased rollout, or they used a private beta test to test that. But again, you can do that in phases. You can either do that with a phased rollout, you can either do that with an A/B test, or you can either do that with a private rollout. So what do I mean by this kind of stuff? So A/B test, I think people are mostly familiar with. That's really comparing the performance of two things. So a tool like Bugsnag will allow you to see the stability comparison of an A/B test, and you're probably using your internal analytics to see if an A/B test is performing revenue-wise or engagement-wise on your own side. But it helps you make decisions about new feature rollouts based on these stability insights. Now, phased rollouts, I think, are more interesting. And on mobile, this is almost becoming the norm these days. Both the Google Play Store and the Apple's App Store support a phased rollout as part of the app release process. So you can say, here's version 2 of the app. I want it to go out to 5% of our customers initially, and then I want to ramp afterwards. So what this allows you to do is use that canary in the coal mine. You can go and see, we rolled it out to 5% and there's some pissed off customers, or there's a ton of bugs that we can see in Bugsnag. Let's roll back, or let's pause that phase rollout. This is killer. This is a great thing to be able to do. And also there's some third-party products out there like Launch Darkly and Split that allow you to do these phased rollouts using your own infrastructure. When we're talking about data-driven culture, Zynga is one of Bugsnag's customers. Zynga's suite of games use Bugsnag to measure the stability of their applications over time. And the fact that we can segment the stability of an A/B test or a phased rollout is essential to studios like Zynga as well. So, what are the key takeaways here? Well, this one's obvious to everyone if you're a software developer watching this talk. Developers are under pressure to launch quickly, but you get in big trouble as a studio or a publisher if you launch quickly and get bad press. But not all studios are Nintendo or Rockstar and have the ability to take their sweet time over launching the perfect game. So use pre-production testing, stability management, and phase rollouts, and hopefully a stability management product like Bugsnag to make sure that you can get that content and that game live soon without sacrificing stability and without having your customers get annoyed. All right, so thanks for watching. That's the end of my talk. If you want to learn more, we have a virtual booth set up. You can talk to our team. I'll be at the booth. You can talk to my team about stability management, how our customers are managing stability, and some more examples. Watch a fun video, or you can schedule a customized demo with some of my experts, or learn how to start a free trial. We're also giving away a pretty sweet t-shirt. These t-shirts are so soft. They're one of my most comfortable t-shirts that I own, so I recommend grabbing one of those. And if you want to talk to me, hit me up on Twitter. I'm LoopJ on Twitter. And if you want to check out Bugsnag outside of our demo room, go to bugsnag.com or docs.bugsnag.com. Thanks for attending, and looking forward to seeing you in the booth.